February 27th, 2017 at 7:31 p.m. And we'll begin with the approval of minutes.
So I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 26th executive session meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the joint school committee meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Advisory Committee held on February 2nd, 2017.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. And lastly, I'll move to approve the minutes of the joint school committee Advisory Committee Education Subcommittee meeting held on February 7th, 2017.
Do I have a second? Second. I have one comment. Linda Kutch's name is spelled with an S. And it occurs various places in the minutes, so if we can amend those accordingly. Linda Kutch's name?
You have an S in there?
No, in the middle.
In the middle.
Oh.
Oh.
K-U-T-S.
Other than that, they look fine to me. So, any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 3, questions and comments. Audience comments are always welcome as agenda items are discussed. The school committee has set aside 15 minutes on this agenda to enable members of the audience to raise questions and make comments on any matter of general concern that is not on the agenda. Individual speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers are reminded that the meeting is being televised and are asked to respect the privacy rights of others. Comments against any individual are not allowed by policy number 3.7.5. Anyone not on the agenda? Okay. We will move on to superintendent's report. Good news.
Yes, a lot of good news things. I'd like to call your attention to the Credit for Life Fair, the first annual, they say. This was on February 17th at the high school. The program is here. I did not attend, but I spoke to a number who did attend, including Jamie. So, anything else you want to say?
Fantastic. I'll say it again.
But this was a joint venture, a team of people, and they include Paula, Penny Baltera, who's a math teacher, Rose Doran, family and consumer science resource teacher, Erin Kroll, a counselor, Kathleen Savory, who's our post-secondary planning coordinator, and Joe Tarantello, who's a business teacher, but a great event. And I have not heard from any students, but I'm assuming they enjoyed it as well. And is Brad here?
No, I don't see that.
So in any event, that's one good thing and something that had a lot of sponsors and a lot of recognitions for donations to the cause, so to speak. Just this morning, we got a wonderful piece of news, and you have 2 handouts in your packet that relate to that. This is an award that comes from the Mass Bio Ed Foundation, and Hingham High School was named the 2016 Joshua Borger Innovative School of the Year. We received an award from that foundation a number of years ago. I think it was in 2009. And so this is a repeat award in a very specific category, so we're very proud of that. And it relates to all that Hingham High School has done over the last several years, in particular, that have to do with focusing on a biotechnology in all of our classes, including we have a new biotech course in that period of time, but in addition, adding to all of our life science courses in some big ways, this focus. The award comes with $5,000 that not sure what they can use that for, but special congratulations go to Katie, of course, the department director, but especially to Libby Cates and her team of other life science teachers at the high school. So there will be a presentation, I think it's at the end of the month, where they will go to Cambridge and be present at the award ceremony, but also speak. Some students will go to that as well. So that's very, very exciting news, and congratulations to all who are involved. I wanted to make a couple of comments about the two principal searches that are ongoing. In the case of the Plymouth River search, we're getting near the end. We're at the point today when both candidates were at Plymouth River and met with different groups, a group of parents, a group of teachers, faculty in the building, some students, fifth graders, were they all?
Fourth and fifth.
Fourth and fifth graders, and so Jamie was there all day. Did you want to comment on
Yeah,
anything else?
It went really well. They also met with the elementary leadership team. They had lunch, and they also met with the department directors and the resource teachers.
Great.
Yeah. It was a great day.
So we have one more site visit, so to speak, that will occur on the 7th.
Correct.
It
Next
is,
Tuesday.
and then subsequent to that, and in time for at least the last meeting in March, but
Mhm.
perhaps even before then, to recommend the finalist, the candidate, to be the successor to Chuck Cormier at Plymouth River as the principal. So it's been a very productive process, and Jamie has chaired this search and had an able committee of people who did the initial interviews, screening interviews. So that's a good thing to have behind us. The high school search, we've had a number of things that have occurred. We've updated the job description for the high school principal. We've had 3 different forums, one for students at the high school, and Jamie actually did that in 2 pieces to make sure that anyone who wanted to speak with him could, to develop a profile of the ideal candidate for that job. And Christine Smith, who is co-chairing that with me, Christine held a forum for parents and had a fair number of people there, 35 or so people, and some of the school committee members were there. And I met with the faculty on the Wednesday before the break, and was there for a period of about 2 hours with them. And so we have 3 different lists of characteristics, if as you will. We originally had thought of just kind of putting them all together into one thing. There's a fair amount of overlap in those 3 categories, as you might expect there would be, but I think there's something to be said for keeping them as 3 separate lists, so you can see what might be different about what parents say as opposed to what the staff may say. So the candidates, the applicants have applied. The deadline for that was on Wednesday, the 15th of February. So over the last week and up until this Friday, we have a group of folks who are doing a paper credential verification, if you will, and those people received all of the candidates' letter of intent, cover letter, resume, and 3 letters of reference, and so people have been working on that, and we'll use that information to inform the interview committee, screening interview committee. You have at your place tonight the list of the names of the folks. Prior, you had a list of what the categories would be, but these are the names of the folks on that committee. And we're in the process of setting up a meeting for next week, which will be the orientation meeting for this committee. And at that orientation, we'll share things like the job description, the 3 different profiles that we have, and primarily spend time talking about the questions that we will want to use, the common set of questions. And so Christine was sending a notice around today to find a date next week when we can do that. And subsequent to that, we will have the names of the interviewees as they've been identified through this paper screening process. And we'll have questions, and we'll set up interviews for the weeks of February 13th and March 13th and March 20th. So we're on target as to where we hope to be. A lot has been accomplished, but a lot more to do as well. And I think that's it in terms of superintendent's report.
Great. 5. Are any questions for her on that? 5, communications. Communications received by the superintendent.
I did get an email just yesterday from Margaret Conity, who's talked about the success of our teams, and we've got a lot of basketball and hockey coming up over the next week or so, 2 weeks I think about. Boys basketball is playing on Wednesday, March 1st at Madison Park, and that's in the evening, 6:30. Girls basketball versus Oliver Ames, and that's home on the 2nd, which is Thursday, and that's at 6:30. March 4th, girls ice hockey at Reading. We don't have the exact time, but likely 7. And boys ice hockey, the boys were ranked number 5 in the Super 8, so quite an honor to be in that group again this year, and they'll play Arlington, and we don't have the actual date and time for that game. This is a game tonight, I think, that is a preliminary round that we have. So congratulations to all, and good luck as well. So you have a copy of this, because if you're like me, you forget which team is playing on which night.
Okay. Next, we normally have student communications, but our student, unless he's coming in, I heard a door shut.
Parking
No.
or...
Yeah. Well, if he arrives, we will fit him into our schedule.
Leslie, can I just
yeah.
interrupt for a minute? Do we want to call time out and see if our technician wants to come out?
I let him know that it wasn't on.
I know he closed out, but he was playing earlier, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't want to disturb the meeting, that's all, so Yeah.
Make sure you get that baby going.
I apologize.
No? There we go.
My apologies,
That's
I
okay.
It was on when we started.
There.
I mean, it is airing right now
Yeah.
on public access.
You can
I
see it
There
on
we
his
go.
monitors in the other room, that's
Okay.
why. it
My
was not.
apologies.
No, thank you for the adjustment.
There we go.
Okay, now, technical difficulties improved. Back to business. And other communications, we received a letter that was responded to today. Next, new business, 6.1. To hear an update on the administration's proposed preliminary operating budget for fiscal year 18. So we have updates.
We do. In
to
fact, we
hear.
have some that came along just today.
Okay,
So
hot off the press, okay.
Hot off the press, that's right. So, this slide you've seen before, it has different numbers on it at this time, but if you look furthest to the right at, what color is that? I call it aqua. But that is the budget that we're living with this year, the FY17 budget, and it's 47,613,724. And then in the purple area in the middle, this was the budget that we started with back in December. So it's preliminary budget, it's the administration's budget still. And you see it there, the total was $50,279,561. And that's the total, and then the two categories that are here are the regular ed, which was 38.2 million, and the special ed, 11.961. And that original budget, the preliminary budget, was a 5.6% increase overall, 6.3 for regular ed, 4.23 for special ed. So that's where we started back in December. Since then, we've made a number of changes. So in the peach color there, you have where we are now. And so this is cumulative of all of the changes that we've made at the various meetings. So at this point, the revised budget as of this afternoon, $49,983,377. And percentage-wise, that's a 4.98% increase overall. It is 5.3 for regular ed, 3.94 for special ed. So that's the newest number that we have. The original budget, which was the purple one, was and is, and the new budget is, our level services budget. So those numbers only include the things that are in purple, which are part of our level services budget. And those are the things that were new in it. But nevertheless, we felt belonged in the category of level services. So the budget adjustments that were new this evening are the three that are in the peach color. You know, we had a number of teachers who were on leave, who are on leave for this year, a full year leave, and we've been awaiting their decision, which is due on Wednesday, as to whether they will return or whether they would request an additional leave, or whether they might choose to resign or retire or do something else. Typically, when we write the budget, we make the assumption that all of them will return. That's our budget assumption. And that's because typically it's the newer people that have the lower salaries, so the replacements for these people. So to be sure that we're covered in case all of them were to return, we put their salaries in the budget. So where it says teacher extends leave of absence number 2, that is a teacher, very experienced teacher, who was on leave this year and who has decided that he wants to remain on leave for another year. And so he will remain, but his salary was in the budget. We will now be using the salary of the replacement for him, person who was there this year and will remain next year, and that's a savings of $45,000. So some of these savings can be huge if it's a very experienced teacher taking a leave. Typically, the people who take leaves, the most common reason for full year leave would be a maternity leave. Those tend to be younger folks, and there's not so much of a swing there, but this was really a big savings that that person will stay out for the coming year. The second case was not a positive thing for us. In the second case, we thought that the person would be replaced by someone lower, but it turns out that the replacement this year for someone else who is on leave is actually more costly than the person who took the leave. And so that was actually financially, at least, a bad news story. And so we lost $4,251 there. And then the third one is a person who is on leave, is intending to remain on leave, and so there's about $17,000 savings there because the replacement is at a lower salary. We have only one more person that we're not sure about. We do believe that that person will take another year of leave, which would mean there would be some savings there, not a large amount, but some savings for that last person of the 14. So that's the good news about that is, well, really two parts to it. One is that financially overall, with respect to those leaves, we have saved and been able to reduce the budget a fair amount. But the other piece of good news is one more of those unknown categories that now is in the known category. So that's good. I like knowns better than unknowns. On the other hand, when you get rid of all the unknowns, you get rid of a lot of hope that there could be some other positive swing. So anyway, whoops. With respect to that, then, the total amount of money that has been reduced at this point is, I can't get where I want to be here, is $296,184. So those three pink ones add up to about $58,000 in reduction. The overall good news is that we've been able to reduce the budget by $296,184, but still keeping all of the things in it that we thought it was important to have. So these are reductions in the bottom line, but it's not at this point any loss of services, and we still can say that we have a level services budget on the table. So if we go to the overall budget, with the blue being the regular ed and the green being the
special ed, and the red being vocational. If you look furthest to the right, that is the summary of all of those changes, and they're there by the categories that they're in. And if you look furthest to the right, that's the 4.98% increase over the current year. And if you look at the very bottom line in the right-hand column, so we now have a budget that's an increase of, I don't know,
2,360. What's that? Can you read it?
I'm just saying, I don't know why I can't make it bigger.
How about slideshow? Will the slideshow work? If you hit slideshow or full screen?
Oh, here's that little thing. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
So the total dollar then increase is $2,369,653 over the current year, or 4.98%. Total dollar value of that budget, $49,983,377. So those are the only changes we know about at this point. Things can happen. There may be some additional people who will choose to take a full year leave. That typically happens, but I don't have anything more tonight. So our recommendation to you, since this is the night that we're scheduled to have a vote, a school committee vote on adopting a budget, our recommendation, and you obviously may have other changes to suggest, but our recommendation is that we adopt this budget because it's all that we know about in terms of changes, number one. Number two, many of us attended the meeting of the AdCom subcommittee, and there is still a range of opinions there as to what is the right budget. And lastly, we still have a couple of weeks before the final recommendation and votes will occur by AdCom and the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any questions on those changes? So we will go to 6.2 to continue discussion of the proposed preliminary budget and act on the school committee fiscal year 18 operating budget. So I had sent to you a summary of the most recent advisory committee subcommittee meeting, which happened about 2 weeks ago, and I have not received any further financial information from the town side. Advisory committee members are telling me they haven't received anything further, and we haven't heard when we're going to have another forecast or final forecast meeting from the town administrator. So that's where we are right now. I believe the town still has the deficit showing in the budget plan of $1.1 million. If we want to take that into any thoughts of where we are. So does anyone have thoughts, ideas, where they want to go with our proposed budget to the town?
So my understanding is that we don't necessarily have to vote on the budget today, right? I mean, we can let the administrator's budget be presented, let them vote, and then we can take our vote instead of voting and then re-voting, right? Just wanted to understand that.
Have we posted to vote?
We did post
Yeah, so I
to
think we
vote,
have to vote, but we could vote the
but you can
administration
revote.
budget.
So it wouldn't be final.
And then that can be our vote for tonight, and then they can give us some input and we can re-vote.
Yeah.
Which is what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
I would say, and I kind of want to stress the fact that what's there as the bottom line of the current budget, that is our level services budget. So, from my perspective, for us to wait and then vote something less than level services might not send the message that we might want to send. So that would be a reason for voting this, which is level services, and then we expect that we're going to have to reduce further, but we should do that knowing that we're then reducing from level services.
Yeah, I mean, every year I've been on the committee, we've voted twice. So, you know, it's, once we got to where we could get to and then got further information from the town, we took a second vote. So this isn't the final vote that we would take prior to town meeting.
I think the other reason for you voting something, whether it's that recommendation or not, is that I think it's important that you go forward to both the Board of Selectmen and the Advisory Committee meetings with a school committee budget as opposed to the administration budget, which this is now.
So, personally,
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we vote as our school committee budget, the administration's number, which is the $49,983,377, because that is our level services. We were asked to provide, and we agreed to provide a level services budget. And that is the budget that's been proposed and that we've been talking about.
I would second that.
Okay, so further discussion?
I would absolutely agree.
Now, that doesn't mean that we might not have some more reductions that we can take for personnel kind
Right.
of reasons that would still give us a level services budget, but at a smaller number. And that's, of course, what we're all hoping will happen, that there'll be some subsequent changes that allow us still to have what we believe that we need and that represents level services, but just at a lower cost.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that this is definitely level services based on the enrollment we're facing in the high school and the middle school, and even maybe a little bit below level services. And I'd also like to point out that, you know, we've been able to, within this budget, identify some requests from special ed parents, and I think we explained to some other parents about some class sizes. So we were able to identify public requests in this budget as well. You know, it's a tough one, but it's level services, and you know, I'm willing to hear what the town information is and where we have to go from the town standpoint, but I agree this is level services.
I would like to say that I appreciate all the time and energy that the advisory education subcommittees put into this, because you guys have worked as hard, if not harder, than we have on this. And we really appreciate it, so thank you.
Well said. Well said.
Okay, do you have anything to add or question or?
I guess I'm just a little bit nervous about the budget where it is, and I think we are going to have to make cuts, and we haven't really discussed any of that up until now, so to call this our school committee budget, just I'm a bit hesitant. You know, we keep hearing from the town this is not sustainable, so I think we need to start those discussions.
Well, you know, I don't disagree with that, but I think, you know, the way that this is going to probably end up playing out this year is we probably are going to have to cut some things, which will be very difficult to do, but if that's how the number comes back to us, sure, we all need to be thinking about that and where we would see the best places to be, but I think it's premature to start talking about what any of us would think should be cut until we really, really know what that number is. You know, it's a very difficult conversation to have until we know the number we're working with. So I think voting the level services budget, which I would agree is what we have presented to us, is all we can do as far as action on a budget at this juncture in time. Knowing that we are probably coming back to revisit this.
Yeah, I agree with Aileen's point, and I made a list of some things, and it was hard to come up with the things, because be some big chunks, but I think that what was proposed tonight got us closer to some targets that had been talked about by the advisory subcommittee. So I would feel more comfortable getting a better idea of what number we have to get to before identifying what those things would be, because they're gonna be hard choices to make. Because we are gonna be between level services and level funded with what we end up with. So. Okay, so can we take a vote on the proposed, which number?
49,983,377.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I did want to comment on the capital budget. Capital outlay will meet on Wednesday night, and we'll review the information that we got from Libby Claypool from the Capital Outlay Committee. That came on the Wednesday before the break, and so they have come up with a number that they've approved to take to the advisory committee. Their recommendations go directly there. And so we have an approved number, but the capital outlay hasn't had an opportunity to talk about it yet. So they will do that on Wednesday, and then we will need to vote that budget as well.
Are you talking about the long-range planning? Or-
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Long-range planning is meeting Wednesday to talk about the capital outlay.
Got it.
Right. That's one of several topics that will be on that agenda, but
Okay, so our next meeting, hopefully we'll vote the
we should have
capital.
the recommendations, yes.
Okay.
Just procedural, it's good to go with the long-range plan, and so I can explain the cuts or the proposed reductions and deferments that capital addressed. And, then the committee would either agree or come up with some different opinion at the next meeting.
Do we have any negotiation with them of staying within their total number but reallocating within some of their, I saw some of their
Right.
suggestions, and I was just curious as to if we reprioritized, but within their total number?
But as far as legally, once an appropriation is given to the school committee by town meeting, only the school committee decides where the money gets spent. So
Right.
once in good spirit, we try to, go along with what the plan is.
Yeah,
But should the committee feel that the money needs to be reallocated once it's appropriated by town meeting, it's up to the school committee's discretion.
but, yeah,
And we'd talk to them, but, ultimately, the school committee could take a vote and decide they're going
Okay.
to reprioritize the money.
okay. I'm trying to just work with our
Right.
friends and other groups and having them maybe understand better some things where we were coming from of our needs, so.
And yeah, we certainly can. And I think that those recommendations, if there was some alteration, would come out of the long-range planning committee.
Oh, yeah.
And,
yeah.
Be presented to the entire committee, and then you could discuss it and decide whether we wanted to reallocate. And we would make contact with capital outlay in the town and sort of let them know what we're thinking. And, as you know, they may not agree, but we may still decide that it's necessary for the school system, or the committee may decide it's still necessary for the school system.
There was a vehicle on the list that I thought was
It's a reduction of about
Bit of a-
300,000
bit of a need that-
from what we had requested.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a fair allocation
Mhm.
of the total number.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay. Okay, great. All right. 6.3, to discuss a proposal for Foster School, including submitting an SOI application to the MSBA, creating a building committee, establishing a feasibility study budget, and submitting a related town meeting 2017 warrant item and act as appropriate. This issue has accelerated itself in the past 2 weeks, as the winter has gone on, and when the issue came up of, John had raised in the advisory subcommittee meeting about probably should look at submitting a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for April, and I reached out to the selectmen because we need their endorsement of that decision as well, and some things were falling into place with the way town meeting warrant was going, and lo and behold, came back with the opportunity of accelerating this even a little faster and getting all of our ducks in a row as quickly as we could. And so this has happened very quickly since our last meeting. So John is going to take us through, you have your PowerPoint, to where we are today. But John worked very hard with a few other people over the vacation, and the selectmen have been cooperative. So we're going to get to our work, and that's the reason this has happened so quickly. So take it away,
Very good,
John.
thank you. So this is a recommendation to file a statement of interest with the MSBA, and also associated articles to be proposed to the selectmen tomorrow night to open up the warrant to include a couple of articles for to create a building committee, and also to allocate, appropriate some funding for a potential feasibility study should we enter into an agreement, or should the MSBA invite us into their plan. So what I get here is I want to go through a few slides and give you the background on Foster and show you what the need is and explain what the urgency is and show all of the pieces. So there's a little switch on the white one.
There we go.
I've never been in this room.
I was gonna say.
That's the seat, Ray.
You've never been in a seat before.
So we'll just start off. So a little background on Foster. So Foster is an elementary school, grades K to 5. The October 1, 2016 enrollment was 470 students. It was built in 1951. In 1957, they did an addition to it. It must have been they probably planned it before the World War II ended, and they got it built, and then the baby boom started, so we had to do an addition in 57. We did a renovation in 1974, and then did another renovation in 2008. Okay, so 51 to 2017, we got a 66-year-old building right now. It's approximately 600 square feet. It's built on 39 acres, and the infrastructure of it's steam boilers and for heat. Okay, so steam. I don't know if anybody remembers steam, but it's the radiators right in your house, and they bang and they clank and stuff, and they're filling up with steam, and that's how you basically get the heat. So I'm putting that there now because that's one of the critical things that's happening right now that I'll explain as we go along. So here's our Foster School, okay? I got a lot of pictures in here too, so you're just not totally dense with the words, okay? This is the floodplain right here, okay? So you can see the existing building there in the pink there, right here. So, back here, my pointer. So here, this is the floodplain. So a little bit of the buildings in the floodplain. Here's the shed, the ball field would be over here, okay? But you can see the extent of the land, okay? Whether it's buildable or not, we don't know. However, I think that would be the first part of exploratory. You can take a peek at this now. So take a look at this. This is your Google Maps, okay? So here's your building, and then you see this is the rest of the parcel of this land. Now we know from playing softball here that there's hill over here. I'm not sure what the extent of this property is over here. So, we'd have to do a little investigation for the site. But initially, with this statement of interest, it would be for the school. we're gonna explain to the MSBA the problems with the school, and then the MSBA will help us conduct a feasibility study to determine what we do with this building. And that the choices could be a renovation, it could be a renovation addition, or it could be a new school building. So anyways, that kind of gives you a picture of what we're looking at right now. Primary concerns with Foster. I want to make it very clear right now, the building is clean, the building is safe, and it's well maintained, okay? Maintenance responds immediately whenever we have a problem there. We got an excellent maintenance staff. But the building problems are a true inconvenience for the student, staff, and the administration. We've had heat problems, okay? We've had, a loss of heat. We've had steam leaks in the pipes. It's caused sometimes shutting down a number of rooms. Therefore, the administration has to shuffle the students and try to get them into, other heated spaces. We're really lucky these past couple of years, I feel, because the winters have been pretty mild. And this is one of my little kids, he's crossing his fingers there, right? It's like, so far we've been okay this year, right? And thank God we've been okay, because we've had a number of these heating problems. Dealing with those along with the winter of 2015 just would be incredible. Okay, I don't know how we would do it. So we haven't lost any school days. So this steam issue and the electrical, the steam boilers, it's impacting the heat, the electrical, and the water systems. Okay, and they've been failing, periodically, and they're at further risk of failure. So the heating plant, I said, it's steam plants. There's leaks in the walls. Okay, in masonry walls. There's leaks on the floors and crawl spaces. Steam and condensation pipes are corroding. All right, so the condensation, the steam's building up. It's going to the pipes. The metal's really heating up from the steam, and then the water is cooling and it's dissipating, and it's coming back through condensation. So there's always a constant flow of water in those pipes, and that water is Hingham water. Okay, so I don't know if you've got a laundry or something. If you leave it there too many years, sometimes it gets a little stuck. That corrosion's sitting within these pipes as well, okay, and has been for 60 years or so, okay, and so the pipes corrode from the inside out as well as from the outside in, okay, and then some of the pipes in this, they're direct buried. But when we did the addition, they placed the pipes, they built a foundation, they bored through the foundation, placed the pipes so that you get into the new wing, produce the steam, and then they filled it all in with dirt. Okay, and then they built over it. So when you get down to the crawl space, you hit a foundation wall, but there's still another whole section there, and you can't get to the pipes because they're under the ground. So there's some direct buried pipe there. It's just not accessible. Now the steam leaks are also impacting some of the electrical systems, okay, because the electrical systems is also down in this crawl space. And I got a bunch of good pictures of them. I'm going to give you the Evelyn Woods version of this when I show you the pictures, okay? So you'll see, and I'll sort of point out what happens, but the steam leak could happen in a wall or something, and then it could penetrate the conduits or the EMTs that carry the electrical lines, okay? So, and that could feed its way up into the electrical panels and cause, some faults for fire alarms, or cause some circuits to break, and all the panels are locked up, so they're safe, okay? It's not like, the panel's going to get electrocuted. The worst that's going to happen is a circuit breaker will break and stop power, but you don't want water getting into the electrical systems, okay? So steam is impacting it. Pipe hangers in the crawl spaces. So now the pipe hangers, the crawl spaces, it goes 4 feet, but then some of them turn into belly spaces as you proceed further along the building. It's not really so much crawl anymore. I mean, you can duck down. I managed to get pretty far, ducking down is kind of bad. And I can duck down pretty good, okay? I could get under the pipe. But then later there's belly spaces where, I had my clothes on, so I wasn't going to crawl in there, okay? So here's an example now. This is one of the spaces. This is one of the access points, okay? This is inside a classroom, okay? That latch comes over, a rug goes over that, and the table goes over that. So, I mean, and you can kind of see, a little rust over here and stuff. That's happening to the pipes as well. There's not a whole lot of head space there. I mean, if you're standing in this, your head's coming out. Here's another picture. So you see these are electrical lines, okay? These could be steam pipes, and they're also water pipes. But the steam pipes, some of them are covered with asbestos, okay? It's the old asbestos, it's encased, it's safe, kids don't go under there, I mean, it's all approved, okay, and always inspected. Here's another picture of another crawl space, okay, so it just keeps going up. You can see about the, you know, how big it is here, right? There's not a whole lot of headroom in there. This is a pipe hanger, okay, and that's a big pipe. That's a big, big pipe, okay, so you can see the corrosion here. What's happened on some of the cases is these hangers have given way, okay, and now there's more weight on the pipe. The pipe is sort of a little tender because on the inside it's tender because it's been corroding all these years. So when the hanger goes, you know, the pipe will produce more weight, maybe cause another hanger to go, and then eventually have the pipe fail, okay? When the pipe fails, we need to reprop the pipe up and replace sections of pipe or do some welding. This is an electrical box, okay? So this is electrical down in that same crawl space. So you can see like the steam and the moisture down there, right? I mean, when you look at the ground there, you can see like the streams because water gets there because we saw that it's sort of in the floodplain. So when you get heavy rains and stuff, you're going to get a little bit of water in the basement. So it's a damp space as well. But if you have steam, see these holes? The steam can start permeating through those holes, and then it goes through the pipes. These are the electrical conduits, and that's how it ends up getting into circuit boxes. So you see, here's a circuit box, right? They all have locks on them. These, you know, control the power to the rooms, okay? And you can see this rust here. That rust isn't coming from above. It's coming from below. There's moisture coming from below, okay? Moisture could have been coming from the walls, okay? So what's the deal with doing these repairs? We continuously do these repairs. They can be very expensive. The boilers may need to be shut down or an area isolated. Fortunately, this year we've been isolating areas. Last year, just before Thanksgiving, and remember we had that great warm winter, which was excellent because on that Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we discovered a leak. And I'll show you, I have a picture of where that leak was, okay? But that required that all the boilers be shut down. And fortunately, buildings will retain heat for a while, and that Wednesday was a short day, and the temperatures were mild. So we didn't lose the day before Thanksgiving at Foster. But we had the guys in there, and they repaired that job that Wednesday, okay? Right after the kids left, you know, everything came down. They did the repair. I said before, they've been very creative in moving the instruction out of the impacted areas. Sometimes we have to reroute the pipe with new runs. Some pipes are not, I said they're not accessible, you saw that, and the work may require contractor overtime rates, weekends, holidays, and evenings. So these are not necessarily cheap repairs. The record's about $78,000 spent in Foster over the past couple of years on, you know, basic sort of maintenance stuff. Basic sort of repairs, not so much your ordinary maintenance, you know, your repair type stuff. This is just, see that, whoop, let me get back here. So see that pipe? That new pipe, they just bored through the wall, they bored through the floor. So they're gonna take up they're gonna make a new steam connection now, come up, go in through that pipe, and then they're gonna connect. This is sort of like a main distribution system where they can get to this kindergarten wing. They'll connect into that. You can see there's like a lot of new stuff in there, okay? So there's a lot of welding going on, a lot of soldering, a lot of pipe connections. And then we end up with something that looks like this in a number of rooms, like especially the whole kindergarten wing, okay? So looks good, right? Nice clean classroom, good. This is your heat line now, okay? This is, instead of these things going down below, underneath, okay, your heat's running in these insulated pipes, which we insulate very well because if kids go, you know, it's a hot pipe, right? So if, and there's a condensation line too, so there's steam and there's condensation, but it's following the perimeter. See, here's another one. You can kind of see it coming down and coming this way here. So they all get exposed because there's no other route now in order to get the heat or to, you know, to really make sure that the place is going to be heated. But this is safe, they're insulated, and it does the job. So, I mean, we continue to keep the building operational, and I think the building can remain operational. Sometimes they may go undetected though, right? If you may not know you have a leak, okay? Because it could be leaking. You're not seeing any visible signs anywhere, okay? Except for all of a sudden, you know, maybe there's a little hot place on the floor. So then we'll go and we'll check out the hot place on the floor. You know, and we'll check it with a temperature. So, well, it's, you know, that's 140 degrees. The floor shouldn't be 140 degrees. Okay, so that's how we'll find them. The other thing that's happening too is, you know, when one pipe fails, the others are going to soon follow. It's not unlike a light bulb or a battery, right? You can replace one battery, you know, but you know your smoke alarms, right? You replace one. The others aren't far behind. Same thing with light bulbs. Well, the pipes are the same way. They all have that same water, the same condensation. They're all in the, you know, basically the same age. So when you get one, what happens is you get that one patched up. It's going to travel along and it's going to find the next weak link. Okay, so it's not, this won't be something that will stop. We'll continue doing that, okay, and we'll continue repairing the pipes. We do have, there's a risk, though, of a major steam distribution pipe failing, which would preclude the use of the boilers. You know, as long as the weather temperatures are fine, but I mean, if this happens during a real cold spell, we can't, we're going to have to, we could shut the boilers off, but we're going to have to either, you know, not have school for a number of days, or if the thing would take longer, actually figure out how we're going to, like, you know, move the kids so that they can continue learning until we can actually get the repair done. Okay, so and there is a risk. You know there's a risk because all of this has been happening, you know. And then some of the repairs, as I said before, require the removal of asbestos. Here's an example. Okay, so this is the Foster Library. Okay, this is the heating unit. Okay, there was steam leaking. The way we found this is like Katie Hartman was walking to, and she hit a spot. She says, "This is a little squishy here." Okay, and she said, "We're ripping this carpet back. We got to see what this is." Okay. Now, I got a bunch of other pictures of this. I just trying to show you that if they happen underneath the floor, you can't find them. You know, there's got to be some evidence will show up eventually, and then we'll look at it because our maintenance staff will look at it. Hey, what's going on here? And we're going to check it out. But obviously that steam was leaking for a while. Okay, we had to cut out all of that floor. We had to have the steam issue, which was connected to that right over here is the ventilator or the heating unit. Okay, the leak was around there, and the steam is permeating this way. Okay, and then it's coming up, trying to come up to the floor. It's getting cooled, so you're not like getting any really hot spots or anything like that. It's not till the stuff starts corroding that you know, hey, you know, there's something going on under here. Okay. So that's sort of one of the examples. Here's another one. Okay, this was one of the more recent ones that we just had, and we just got that one patched up. But you know, you can see this area, this colored, right? That's not happening from a leak that just happened. Okay, that's been going for a little while. Okay, and what happened was the pipe failed. So you know, we put the pipe back up. That was a fairly easy one, but there's. It was fairly easy, except for it was like way down the end of the crawl space, okay? And you know that the place, it's not really a maze. I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's got like, you know, you're going up a central aisle, and then you're going off to your left and your right, but it's getting thinner and thinner, and you really don't want to bang any pipes as you're going because you don't know the state of the pipe. So it's not the easiest thing to do. This one here, this is the one that could knock you out. That could knock us out. This over here was the repair that we had to do last November on Thanksgiving, okay? This is the central manifold. So both boilers come up and they start out in this pipe. So this is just boom, loaded with steam, okay? And then it's going to get distributed from there. So when you have a problem with one of these, right, you're going to have to shut out the boilers. There's going to be no heat in the building. So you can't just move somebody to another wing. So, and then this was asbestos. So in order to get this repair done, first the asbestos company had to come, you know, remediate that, remove that asbestos so that guys could, you know, safely work there. You know, about $2,300 to remove the asbestos on an emergency basis, and then several thousands of dollars to do the weld and get the crew there on overtime. So, you know, a repair like that is $8,000 to $10,000. So one of these pipes, if you get a pipe like this going, it depends on where it happens within the system. We could lose, you know, multiple rooms. Sometimes you could lose just one room, or you could lose the whole school for a period of time until we can get it repaired. You know, it's not like it's not gonna be repairable. We can eventually repair it. But it just may take time and we may lose school days. Okay, so that's sort of what, you know, what the state of Foster is. So the MSBA statement of interest is just an application with the MSBA, okay? And they have two programs. One's an accelerated repair, and we had talked about that for years. We've been talking about Foster for several years, Foster and PRS, okay? And we said, hey, we need to continue doing those windows. So we, for a long time on our capital, we had, let's do the windows at Foster, let's do the windows at Foster. A few years back, we dropped that idea and said, you know, we're not going to do windows at Foster because we need to have a larger discussion for Foster, okay? But the accelerated repair is windows, roofs, and boilers. Windows, roofs, and boilers won't do the trick at Foster. I mean, I know you could say, you know, the boilers are fine. We can produce heat all day long, okay? It's the infrastructure surrounding the building, those pipes. We can't necessarily get the heat to the rooms that it has to get to. So really what we need is something beyond an accelerated repair, and that's the MSBA's core program, okay? And you can see their definition: extensive repairs, renovations, additions, news, and new construction. Repairs necessary beyond the scope of accelerated repair. This is where we're at with Foster, okay? So the administration, we're recommending filing a statement of interest for the MSBA's core program for Foster School. Why now? What's the urgency? As I said, the building's clean, the building's safe, the building's well-maintained, okay? But I'm concerned with the timeline. It's going to take us, we start talking about this right now, 3 to 5 years to get a good fix for that building, okay? Just the way the process works, okay? So that scares me. 3 to 5 years with that building scares me, knowing the troubles that we have and knowing that there's going to be more troubles following because, like I said, I believe they're like light bulbs or they're like, you know, they're like light bulbs. When one goes, or a battery, then the others are going to start going very quickly. We already have had experience this year. We've had 6 or 7 steam leaks now. I'm losing count. You know, we're fortunate that the winter's been mild. At the planning meeting in September, we had talked about this. I expressed concern that Foster was, you know, that we needed to plan for Foster. We have to do something about Foster because we're 5 years away. I mean, we have to think right now we're 5 years away, and it's our responsibility to plan for the future. And I think we need to plan for the future and plan appropriately for this building. And I already, that's just a repeat, right? So here's words that are a repeat. So I think I explained what the problems are. So, you know, so what are we really asking? What am I asking you, the committee, the school committee right now to do is sort of to make an affirmative vote to direct the administration to file a statement of interest with the MSBA, request an invitation into the core program for Foster School. And I'm also asking if you would do an affirmative vote to request the Board of Selectmen to open up the warrant to add 2 school committee articles, one for creating a school building committee and the other for funding a feasibility study for Foster School contingent upon being invited into the MSBA's program, okay? So that's really what I'm here to do today, to ask you and explain why it's urgent. So. And then tomorrow, I intend to give a similar presentation, hopefully just as quick or quicker if we have to, but I don't know how long I've been talking. I thought this would be at 15 minutes and we'd have discussion, but to do a similar thing, to ask them to, you know, open up the warrant to include the articles that the school committee wants to put forward, okay, and then also ask them for an affirmative vote that, you know, for to add those articles to the warrant for this April's town meeting, okay, and the funding, okay? And then also to tell them that we would be back to them between now, tomorrow night, and April 7th, and ask them to sign the statement of interest, because the statement of interest has to be agreed to by the school committee and the town, okay? So the Board of Selectmen would say, yes, we're all in agreement that we want to take this action. This isn't a one-sided agreement. So that's what we'd end up doing tomorrow night. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions, talk about other concerns, have a discussion, and I just definitely thank you for your attention to this critical matter. All right.
We also have a couple of guests in the audience in case we have other questions. So Debbie Steller, the principal of Foster School, is here, and Ray Estes, who's former school committee member and current chair of our current school building committee for the middle school. It's still in operation. And Ray knows an extensive amount about the MSBA process, so he joined us tonight in case people have questions. Yes, go ahead, Cynthia.
Ray, do you mind doing the lights? Sorry, that wasn't my question. Thank you. It's a fun seat. Thanks. John, this is actually not a question. I just want to, for the record, ask and be verified that Foster is still a safe place to be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want
Foster
to
is
get
a
that out
safe-
there.
It's a clean, safe, and well-maintained building. I mean, it's not like it doesn't have issues, but we respond to the issues immediately, and everything is, we repair it. We put it in a safe condition and we get it repaired, so, yes.
Okay.
It is absolutely
Just
clean.
wanted to make
it's
sure that was
safe.
absolutely clear, so
Yep.
we didn't.
My last visit to Foster, actually, for the student council on February the 15th. As a matter of fact, by coincidence, John, Doug, and I believe Katie had just visited the building. There was some issue with some heating. If you could elaborate on that, to exactly what happened there. Because I know some, parents was complaining that the
Right.
building was pretty hot.
So, okay, with this heating system, I mean, aside from the some of the valves, like if you try to shut off a system, the valves don't necessarily close all the way, so it's a steam system and it's pressure. So if the valve's not functional anymore, then steam's still gonna permeate the pipes, and it's gonna get to a place that doesn't, the thermostat may be turned down, and it's not calling for heat, right? But the steam is still gonna permeate. So sometimes when you get, weather that's not, totally freezing all the time, you may have hot spaces, and then you may be able to, we may not be getting heat to another space. So it's very, they become more difficult to control because the valves aren't totally functional either, right? You can't necessarily, you want to use a DDC or a control system to say, hey, this room's no longer calling for heat. Well, you can say, okay, shut it down, but if the valve's leaking, steam's still going to get in there, so you can get some overheating, okay? And if you have if steam's being diverted someplace or you're losing pressure someplace, you may not get heat to some other spaces. So it's always got to be investigated. Whenever we have those, we have to investigate. And, as Dr. Sal has been moving kids around the building, it's unfortunate, but we do say, dress in layers because you don't know what you're going to experience. It's not the best situation, but, some days I think there's a lot of good days too. I don't, there's a lot of good days too, right? But sometimes that happens. And it's disruptive to staff, administration, and students.
I have a few questions. How long are the classrooms not in use when a repair is being done?
Well, we were, with the kindergarten wing, sometimes we're fortunate because it's happening near vacation. Okay, so we can kind of keep the building up and running. But did we lose the kindergarten for a couple days? We lost this last one. I thought we lost a couple rooms.
Come up to one of
Deb,
either join John.
I think we
or-
lost the kindergarten, a couple kindergarten rooms anyways for a couple of days, and we had that repair done over this vacation.
Debbie Steller, Foster School, but also a Hingham resident, 75 Summer Street. What we had most recently at kindergarten, we were able to, the paint would peel off of the wall in one area where the moisture was, and we just put a nice little divider there, turned the heat off, and then as the building, that section of the building began to get cold, we turned it back on, and then we were able to do the work over the weekend. Or we had some of that occur over several of the breaks, when we might have a Friday or a Monday, and then the work is done. But sometimes we also move, and I'm in the process of finishing up, as Linda and I talked about this last week, the contingency plan. We're still working on where the 5 main water mains are and which rooms they exactly control, so that then if we turn off one water main, there'll be 6 or 8 rooms and where we would move them and how we would move them. We're flexible in that respect, but it is a different kind of instructional environment in the winter months.
So you haven't missed, you haven't missed had to remove a class yet?
Yes.
Oh,
We
no,
have
the
moved-
kindergarten, last year,
Oh.
the kindergarten, did you have to?
Last year, we moved kindergarten.
Yeah.
This year, when we had some really cold rooms, we've moved some temporarily, either downstairs to the presentation room. We've only had to move one class at a time. A number of our teachers sometimes prefer they wear something layered and stay in the room if it's just going to be an hour or two. We did have, and I sent home that information to our parents. It was in second grade where we had several, well, it was about a week where it was just so hot. And they finally were able to make that repair. But we told them, yes, we're asking that they dress in layers, shorts, and then other clothes on top, so that depending on how the room felt, they could dress appropriately. The kids liked it. You know, they thought it was, second graders, they like that kind of thing. If it had been fifth grade, they would have liked it too, because anytime you can wear shorts in the middle of winter, they'd be pleased. But again, it's where we have to focus and spend time and energy and planning versus just on the instructional day.
And a lot of it is luck, right? I mean, we were fortunate that last year with the number of repairs, they happened really close to a vacation time. And, you know, I mean, the year is staggered, which is good. You know, there are holidays, so we can get the contractors to work on the holidays and on the weekends and try to get things repaired. And clearly, vacation weeks are excellent. Okay, so if they happen close, if we can, you know, do something for a day or two, sometimes we can get to a weekend or get to a time and, you know, get it repaired. So
And-
we try to minimize that.
Tuesday through Friday, there was an awful lot of work, a lot of trucks. They did a lot of work on the
Right.
pipes and a couple other things that, you know, they discover when you work just like those of us have homes that are over 5 or 10 years. They begin to look at something and then they find something else as well.
So are these leaks isolated, or are they in different areas of the school? Or just the kindergarten rooms are being affected?
Primarily, right now it's in our early childhood wing. However, there are parts of the building that are either, we have to, for instance, when I come in the morning, I open the windows, and this is so wasteful. This is very hard, particularly when you're trying to be environmentally sensitive. When I arrive in the office, usually around 7:15, I open 3 windows because it's so hot. But you can't, our thermostats really don't function. So therefore, you know, and this is and it's we all feel badly about this. But if you go in and your room is really warm, you just open the windows. However, the challenge we have at Foster is 4 of our 25 classrooms don't have windows. So if those rooms heat up, there's really not anything that we can do other than move them out if it gets too hot or really too hot. But we have to keep some rooms really hot because other rooms are very cold. And so it's been I just say, open the windows, and if you don't have windows you can open. I said then we talk about, you know, other places we can go.
And I mean, you had the kindergarten wing. There's been other pipes that, you know, they're all dispersed, you know, throughout the building. Even the main line is sort of like over the center of the building for the most part, you know. So there's evidence of like pipe corrosion and leaks, really in all areas of the building.
And then we have this lovely thing in the ceilings, where in certain parts of the building there are multiple ceilings because of how some of those renovations were. And so then it's hard to get to anything, you know, because you have multiple ceilings and there might not be any space. But it is part of our vintage school that we are working on that, and we love our school, there's no question about that, and I think our community is committed to the school, but this is becoming bigger, you know, than we can really manage day to day.
It has to be planned for. I mean, it's time now, you know, it's time, because we're 3 to 5 years away. I mean, 3 years is optimistic, right? 3 years would be, you know, super, but that's everything goes right, you know, and the MSBA invites us right in, and there's no delay, and, you know, we're probably more realistically looking at 4 or 5 years.
And you know, maintenance then spends so much of their time with us. We know them well.
Yeah.
And also the different professionals that are hired to come in and do the work as well. I mean, we always have somebody there, which is good because that means there's response.
Yeah.
And we're looking at making a difference. Pardon?
It would be interesting to see the numbers, though, how many leaks we've had at Foster over maybe the last 5 years. How much are we spending per year on repairs?
Wait, well, I have $78,000. You know,
$78,000?
$78,000, yeah. I mean, I
For
just
this
got the
year?
repair record for the last couple of years. 78,000. I think there's been 7 leaks this year, and I think we had 2 or 3 last year. I'd have to check,
We've
or
had,
maybe more.
part of the concern we've had is we've had a leak almost every week for a number of weeks, and that has been, you know, has been another one of those lights that go off in the sense that, and if you recall when I spoke to that a couple weeks ago, I said this is the first week that we hadn't had a leak on a Monday. Well, we had one the next day, of course.
Right.
Never say that
What can I say?
I mean, that's there's once you start with them, there's no stopping them. They're just gonna you fix one, it's gonna find the next weak area, you know. The only thing I can liken it to is the battery or the light bulb. When the first one goes, the other one's right behind it, and when the battery goes, the other one's going to be right behind it. It just is. It's just they're all subjected to the same environment and also the same, treatment of the water or whatever corrosive effects water has. So.
This is why we're accelerating this, and fortunately, others in town are willing to work with us to accelerate it. So they're all really relevant questions. And yeah, Dot?
I would say that while we could all wish we were in a different place, the two things. One is that that building has served us well, and I could only hope that the two buildings we mostly recently built would hold up for as long, because this leaking problem is relatively new, but that building is more than 60 years old, and so it has served us very, very well. Second thing is that sometimes the stars seem to be aligned, both positively and negatively, but there are some other things that are fortunate. One is that the town is willing to work with us on this and to react. We didn't think a month ago, we didn't think we would be where we are now. That's a good thing. There are some other things that are good. I had huge concerns about the site, because obviously any project is made more complicated if you don't have a site. And we are aware of the climate report. We have received that was done some time ago by the town. Not acted on in any way, but it's out there with some good information. But more importantly, the FEMA maps, the newest ones that were done just last November. We have copies of those, and John showed you one of those slides that shows the building partially in the floodplain. John and I talked about a week ago, just before the break, we talked with the fellow whose firm did those maps to find out where do we go in terms of trying to find out as much as we can before we start working with MSBA as to what our options are in terms of that site. And he pointed us in the direction of talking with the building commissioner. So I talked with the building commissioner today, and he said there were 2 things that you need to do, like most immediately, to have the data that you would need to make decisions, or to have someone make the decisions as to whether the site is buildable and in what directions and so on. And those 2 things are very doable things for us to do. One is to get a new certified plot plan, which you would get from a firm like the one that did the FEMA maps or some other surveying firm, and also to have an elevation certificate. Those are 2 starting points for any decision-making that would be done that involves the town codes and the planning board and
probably conservation and so on. So those are doable, and the reason they're doable is that we had an amount of money in the capital budget to fund a new master plan, very much reduced amount of money over the last time we did a master plan, and that's largely because we had Doug and all of the work that he had done, engineering kinds of studies and so on, we can put toward the effort of a master plan. So we have those dollars that would allow us to do some engineering things, that gives us more information to get an answer as to what we can do on that site and where. So both of those conversations with the gentleman from the GZ.
GZ.
Well, whatever the firm
GC
is, they're in
something, yeah.
Hingham, they're an engineering firm, and they produce those maps. So those things we can get going on simultaneously with doing the application for the SOI. And that's a fair amount of work. I wouldn't want anyone to think that we just fill out one piece of paper and we're done. It's a huge amount of work. Most of it is responding to questions that are asked. The third thing I would say is that last fall, November, maybe early December, MSBA actually came to Hingham. They go to a certain number of communities every year, and they went to every one of our buildings. They had a survey of questions that we had to respond to before they arrived, and then they came to visit all of the buildings, and that's to keep their kind of inventory of building issues in the Commonwealth up to date. We won't have the actual report until July, so that won't help us in terms of doing the SOI, but they have already been here, and they've seen the building. You know, Debbie, you walked the building with them.
Spent a great deal of time together.
So that information will be invaluable too. The more information they have about our schools, assuming that we're accepted into the program, then the more the faster we can come to a joint decision about what the right option is. Is there a renovation option, or would it be a building option only? But that's not something we decide unilaterally. If we're invited into the program, they are very much part of that decision making. But the more information we can do now, before, and take advantage of what they have already about Foster, and hopefully get accepted. Because invitation is the correct word. It is an invitation. And we're very fortunate to have worked with MSBA on 2 prior projects, both the East-School project and the middle school project. And so we're fortunate to have been invited twice in recent history. We hope that won't jinx us. This is a serious need.
I would also just like to say thank you to Linda, because we spent some time together on Friday. She came to Foster, and we had a wonderful conversation. Thank you for your time and interest in getting a better sense of what was happening at the school, and I wanted to say thank you for coming. I appreciated our time together. And may I sit down?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Just another question.
Yeah.
For my, since I'm not new to this.
Yeah.
The feasibility study, is that necessary then for the application?
The SOI application, we don't know we'll have a feasibility study until the MSBA invites us. So the SOI, the statement of interest, will be the application that we file with the MSBA. And if we were get invited into the MSBA program, as the first step in that will be, we will do a feasibility study in conjunction with the MSBA.
The
Okay,
funding
so-
often would be done after.
Okay.
We could submit an SOI with no funding at all, and if we were then invited into the program, at that point, we would have to get the money, and that could result, or could have resulted, in a situation where we might have to have a special town meeting, because there's a period of time they allow you to get the funding. We have the unique opportunity to get the funding prior to, but contingent upon our being accepted into the program.
And if we have the funding, should we be invited, we would hopefully be able to start immediately instead of waiting 9 months to start. Because, we're sitting here We fill in the application by April 7th. Sometime in the fall, probably on September, October, November, would be we're invited. Okay, and then the MSBA would go through their routine and say, well, now you have 9 months to get funding. That could end up pushing us out almost till the summertime and basically to the fall. So you're losing another year there. And then you have to get the feasibility study done, and you have to get the design done, and then you have to get, construction specs done. So that could take another year, year and a half. So we'd actually, if we don't try to get funding now, we'd actually lose. We could potentially lose a year, year and a half. And I'm not of the mindset that I want to lose any time on, on trying to find a great solution for this elementary school.
That makes sense. So where did the number, the 750, come from?
The 750 came from comps from the MSBA. Okay, so MSBA, they publish all their data that they have when they do new elementary schools. So I went in there and I evaluated what the costs of designers and OPMs were for feasibility studies, and kind of threw out the highs or the lows. I made judgments on which ones I thought were really comparable to us, and I came up with the number of $729,000, and then we added $20,000 for site development, to check the site and evaluate. There's I have a spreadsheet. Happy to look at the spreadsheet. There's a great book here. It's got a ton of pictures and other documentation that's associated with Foster. The 729, I've talked with the MSBA. I told them, they said, yeah, I figured 729. I'll tell you came in right in the middle. Good. Okay, that's basically where we want to come in. We don't want to be underfunded. Because if you do this feasibility study, in all likelihood, there's an action that takes place afterwards, okay? So that money, if you don't spend all the feasibility study doing that, that money that's left over will start going towards more design, and more construction documents. So it's at the end of the day, all the feasibility study and the other construction documents and stuff, they're all going to be sort of soft costs. Okay, and the soft cost for a project can end up being 15% or so of the cost of the whole project. So there's the feasibility portion that we're asking for is a small portion of what we ultimately could spend, for any solution that we might undertake there. Just because we have 750 doesn't mean you spend it, yeah.
By looking at comps as opposed to guessing or hiring an engineer or whatever.
But this has got a lot of pictures and a lot of documentation, and of course, I put that number on my capital sheet too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I do have the actual comps from the MSBA that show anybody, so I'm happy to show them to anybody that would like to look at them.
And, okay, another aspect of this, as John was preparing these warrant articles, he and the town council checked with the MSBA that the wording of them are according to their guidelines, so that we are setting ourselves up, it's all contingent upon being accepted into the program, but then we're hoping that we got everything right, that it's turnkey once we get accepted into the program, and that as soon as we get accepted, then the building committee can go into place, and the money is available as soon as we get the go-ahead, instead of waiting or making the town do a special town meeting, but it's all contingent upon getting accepted into the program.
Right.
John, could you refresh our memory on what the percentages that we received on the middle school from the MSBA?
Yeah, I could refresh your memory of that, but we can't rely on that, right? So the base percentage is 31%,
Okay.
and then it goes up from there. The base percentage is, I think that's in statute, or that there's a section of the law that says it's 31%. But so the middle school, I think we're at 43.47, almost 44%, because after you take the base, then they can kind of add on for different things that you might do for the building. But we can't say here today that we're going to get 43 or 44%, because we just don't know.
Right.
31's the base. That's the minimum. So that's what we do know.
But the last school we built in this town
Yep.
got 43%.
Right. yeah.
Well, things like green features and so on.
Yeah,
will add
green
additional
features,
points.
if you have a capital and maintenance program, which you do, you can get another couple of points. You know, that's the way it was back then, right? And, you know, of course, any organization like that's subject to change on how they're gonna give the extra
I
percentages,
understand.
but,
Right.
Yep.
But, so that's why we want to that's why we want to work with them, because they're a
Absolutely.
great partner, and they're going to probably drive the bus on a lot of decision-making.
yeah. And they have a lot of experience building schools, so, you know, you feel you have a partner there that is helping to guide you. They may have certain requirements, like their commissioning, we may say, oh, we didn't like that, or we didn't like this. But at the end of the day, they have a lot of experience doing it, and they're only out for the benefit of schools, so, you know, I think they're a good partner.
Ray, do you want to comment on add anything to the experience with the MSBA?
Whatever you want.
Do you want just some experience with East and the middle school, just for the audience at home too, of any of them may have not lived here when we entered this?
That's good. Madam Chairman, Ray Estes, 92 Fort Hill Street, still the chair of the school building committee. Just to let folks know, so the school building committee of 2006 was established by town meeting to address issues that we've essentially accomplished at this point. East Elementary was built and the middle school was built, and in addition, a total of $7 million was put into renovations at Foster and Plymouth River to breathe, at that time, about 10 to 12 or so years of new life into those schools. We have filed our final closeout documentation with the MSBA. I think you signed it. The Selectmen signed it. It was submitted. So we're just waiting for the MSBA audit. So our work is essentially finished. Our last meeting was early November. We don't intend to meet again unless there's a need, if something comes up during audit where the MSBA has questions or something of that nature. The 43.87, you were close, percent was the reimbursement percentage for the middle school.
I didn't ask that question on purpose.
The East reimbursement, which, by the way, just for those of you at home who don't recall, East Elementary was the first project in the Commonwealth out of the new MASC School Building Authority once the moratorium on design and construction ended in 2006. So Hingham was the fortunate benefactor, or beneficiary rather, of the new program. 40% was the reimbursement, I believe, on East School. I wasn't involved in the committee at that time, was appointed in 2011. Just in terms of the reimbursement, real briefly, 31 is the base. There are a number of percentage points above that that are based on economic factors, because Hingham tends to be on the higher range of the economically advantaged towns in the spectrum. We get fewer percentage points in reimbursement based on those economic factors. To give you an example, a city like Quincy gets in the 80% range reimbursement in total, whereas ours was 43.87, so that gives you a comparison economically. 5 percentage points of that 43 for the middle school were based on the fact that we were building what was part of a model school program. Our model was based on Whitman-Hanson High School. We took that basic design from AI3 and it was adapted to our site specifications, our enrollment, which was a large enrollment for a middle school in the Commonwealth, and that's why we used a high school rather than a middle school, and our educational program. So my understanding is that the model school program is still a viable program. I think they did just come out with a number of new models this past year because the models they were using were 10, 12 years old. I believe there are 4 elementary schools that are models, and I'm not suggesting that you're talking about a model program if that's the invitation or not. But what I am told is you no longer get the additional 5 percentage points reimbursement for the model program, and that your ability to adapt a model design is reduced. So the advantage of that is not the same as it was 5 years ago. Just real briefly on the timing, there's essentially 8 steps in the process to work through the core program with the MSBA. They call them modules, 1 through 8. Since we started the middle school project, they added a module at the beginning, at the front end. It's called eligibility. That's essentially the SOI process and the invitation, and then you have 9 months to kind of pull together initial certifications, assemble your school building committee, get your educational profile in order, your maintenance practices, confirmation of community authorization and funding, and then you execute a feasibility study agreement then and move forward with the full-blown feasibility study. I think it would be a great opportunity to get started on some of the preliminary studies for the site to determine if that site would be a viable site for a renovation or an expansion or a new school. It's a large site. If you recall, this is the prior master plan, was done in 2006, and in this master plan, it spoke about the need to do some kind of short-term fixes because of overcrowding. That's now been solved. Now we're looking at physical plant issues, but those physical plant issues were present 11 years ago. And the recommendations in here and the contemplation in this document was that foster, a longer-term solution for foster based on its age, physical plant, and less than ideal 21st century learning experience, that a long-term solution would be something that would be revisited. And here it contemplated being revisited in 09, 010, and 10. We're way beyond that, obviously. I know on the school committee, for a number of years, there were discussions about starting to work on a successor master plan, and it's great to hear that you're moving forward with that. In terms of those 8 modules and that initial eligibility phase, I know John mentioned typically you submit your SOI in April and you would hope to hear by the fall. The MSBA has a board. For those of you who don't know, MSBA is headed up by the state treasurer, and then there are a number of appointed members who serve. It's a board of about 8 individuals, 7 or 8 individuals. And they don't meet every month. They meet every other month generally, and sometimes they meet every 2 months. The schedule for board meetings is already out for this year. Okay, so they just had a board meeting February 17th. So the next board meeting is not until May 10th. So that's after SOIs are due, April 7th. Then 6/28, 8/23, 10/25, and 12/13. Those are the set remaining board dates. They generally don't change unless there's something. You note that they're not meeting in July. I talked to Mary Mahoney today, who was our project manager on both the East and the middle school project, and also with the renovations for the 2 elementary schools. She indicated to me that they are still issuing invitations this spring for 2016 SOIs. So they're behind. A lot of that timing has to do with how many projects how many towns submit SOIs, and what cash flow is. So just reminding folks at home, the MSBA, Mass School Building Authority, works on a funding program that is based on a penny from the sales tax. So everyone in the Commonwealth contributes to this. Anyone who travels here and buys something pays sales tax on something, and that goes into a pot. But there's a limited number available from the penny on the sales tax, and it's based on how much sales tax is collected at any given year, and it's all based on cash flow and how many projects are being awarded. So given that they're still issuing invitations for last year's SOIs, there's no guarantee that you would get an invitation this fall. And given those meeting dates, it would either be October or December. It's very likely that an invitation, if it was coming, would not be coming until the following spring. Given that they're meeting in December, I would guess that their next meeting would be in February. They usually release the meeting dates in January for the following year. So there's a likelihood that you're not hearing from them until the spring. I think that if you wait and don't at least do some preliminary site assessments, then you're not going to have any idea of what you can do. And if the invitation comes, then you'll be a little bit behind. You're still going to have to do studies with the MSBA as part of their feasibility module, which is module 2, or actually module 3, once your project team is formed. But at least you'll know that you can do something at that site. And you may need to make a decision about alternative sites in the near term based on other things that are happening in town. So I think it's an excellent opportunity to get going with some initial studies. I would say, I know Dot, you mentioned the survey elevation certificate. You might need to explore whether there's ledge in that ridge.
We talked about, borings and
Yeah.
so on, but those two things seem to be the first two.
Right.
As well, they recommend that we do some enrollment. In fact, we do have to do some enrollment work.
Right.
It's not required to submit the SOI, but they do want you to work with them after that on that. So that's another thing that we could get going on.
Right. Well, that would be something you'd need to do in that initial eligibility phase. You'd have 9 months to do that as
Right.
part of your educational profile and your enrollment study. So yeah, if you could get going on that, I know that's something you've been talking about for a little while as well.
Well, we're looking to do a broader enrollment study as well. And so probably to do the broader one and then can pull from that the things that are relevant to foster at the point we become eligible.
Right. So, I mean, John estimated 3 to 5 years. I think ideally, based on prior projects, if you submitted the SOI and you did hear this fall, you got accepted into the core program, and then you proceeded timely, and there was support and funding and all those things go right, I think you could open a school in 3 years. That's assuming a lot. If you don't get the invitation till next spring, then that's 6 months later. Then you're talking about when can you start construction, what time of year, and there are a number of factors that come into play. So 3 to 5 is not a bad estimation. We saw what it took in the middle school. It was a 4-year process. That was a 24-month construction approximately. East was only 13 months. So a smaller elementary school would be a shorter construction period. Assuming a new school, if it's a renovation, that's a whole different animal. You're talking about possibly swing space for existing students. There are all sorts of, getting way ahead of myself. Just in terms of the building committee, this is clearly, and John asked me to reach out to the building committee members, and I did mention to them that there were discussions about this. This project, although it was discussed as part of this master plan, it's clearly beyond the mandate and the intention of the existing committee. So clearly there would be a new committee or perhaps a reorganization and reconstitution of the existing committee with a new charge. There are 2 members who would have an interest in serving again on a future project if that would be of interest. So I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody have questions? No? Yeah, I think it
Thanks, Ray.
behooves us to do as much as we can
Yeah.
in advance to be prepared and get moving on all the steps that have to take place. So, on that note, we have a couple votes we could take tonight to get us moving forward.
One question I have on the language, Liza.
Yeah.
And this might be nitpicky, and it may be not needed because of the catch-all or act on anything relating thereto at
So
the end.
Eileen's looking at the
The actual
warrant articles.
6.3?
that are drafted.
6.3, and, yeah, they're both 6.3, but there's two of them in there.
So-
It talks about, which may include a renovation, remodeling, or new building project for the Foster Elementary School located at 55 Downer Ave. I'm just thinking, should we say currently located, so that we're putting everyone on notice that there is, I mean, we're certainly hopeful that John, do you wanna?
Yeah, I mean, that's the.
Or do we think that's covered by the or act on, and I just want the
I mean, I think
public
it's
to
covered.
know.
I mean,
Yeah.
we did discuss it with council, you know, and we gave the council the idea of the warrant, and then they sort of reworded it as they saw fit. But that map ID is required by the,
Okay.
by the SOI and the MSBA, so
Yeah.
we're talking about, here's the building we have issues with. I would assume that through the process, that if it turns out the site is not right, they're gonna say you need another site, but it's still Foster
Okay.
School.
Yeah.
You know, that school at that location that we're sort of trying to do something about.
This description in the article is based on the instructions from the MSBA of what you have to include in your warrant article for a town, or for whatever your government body that makes the decision of these things. That exact address.
Has to be.
And, yeah.
I just want to use any and all opportunities to make the public aware that hopefully we don't have to go someplace else, but I don't want anybody to be coming back and saying, well, but there was nothing in there that indicated that. So I just want to be very cautious that we're very open about that possibility.
And that could be included in the comment in some way,
Yeah,
that kind of a reference.
yeah.
It is.
Okay,
Mhm.
good, thank you.
Okay. So, I think the first vote we want to take is on whether we want to submit a statement of interest application to the MSBA, because that's our first step in whether we go to the next
Right, you should
steps.
direct the administration to do that if we want to do that.
So, on the item 6.3, the Foster SOI presentation that John made, on slide titled, I guess it's "What Are We Asking?"
Oops, I just lost it.
We need a motion on, I guess I can make it. I'll make a motion that this school committee request the school administration to, is this what I'm asking?
Yeah,
To file a statement of interest with the Massachusetts School Building Authority requesting an invitation into the core program for Foster School.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the first step on that. Then, we have, the warrant is closed, so we have to ask the selectmen to consider opening the warrant. And I believe they've already talked about it, so I don't know if we can formally ask them, but
Or
then.
maybe we don't have, yeah, I'm not sure if we could make the warrant, the vote.
We can vote it, we
Yeah,
can
ask them to
yeah.
include these warrant
Yes.
articles in the town meeting.
So there are two warrant articles, and the reason there's two is because one is the first one would be to establish a new school building committee to manage the project. And then the second one would be to make the funds available for the feasibility study. The feedback that I've gotten from the town administrator's office and advisory committee is that these funds would come out of the reserve fund, and that the reserve fund, the unassigned reserve fund, and that even if they were taken out, they would be eventually paid back into, because the feasibility money would be included in the overall bonding of the project eventually, and that the reserve fund is designed for these types of unanticipated costs, and that with this amount coming out of the reserve fund, it would still be within the financial policy guidelines of the 16% to 20% of the budget? Okay. Wanted to make sure I got the percentage right. So that, so it's not jeopardizing the policies and the bond rating and valuation. So, so wanted to provide you with that information as well. So.
Can we make the motion to accept this language, or do we need to read this whole thing out loud?
Well, I think that we want to do the motion to put articles forth to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration, because I think there's John Coughlin, there's gonna be one change to the Board of Selectmen from the way John Coughlin wrote this, where, you know, the 2006 school committee said that the chair of the committee is assigned by the agreement between the moderator, the Board of Selectmen, and the school committee. And John didn't include that in this language here, so they're gonna change it, the language some, to say that the chair of the school committee, the chair of the school building committee will be jointly selected by the moderator, Board of Selectmen, and the school committee. But I'm not sure what the exact language will be, but John Coughlin will edit the language.
Okay.
You know? So if you see right in the middle here, it says that 3 members by the school committee, with the chair of said committee to be selected by its members. That was a variance from the 2006 process, where the 2006, the chair would be selected by a sort of agreement between the moderator, the Board of Selectmen, and the school committee.
I believe that was requested by one of the selectmen.
So-
This language was.
Oh, this language was?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not sure then what they'll, ultimately, I mean,
So we'll see what the ultimate decision tomorrow night of what the warrant article becomes.
yeah, I mean, well, in one way or the other, we're submitting an article for them to form
Yeah.
a school building committee, and also to look for funding.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
and all the other articles end up going to council, and council sort of words it.
Unless
you
anyone
know.
has any comments about that selection of the chair, which way it goes, so. Okay,
So are we just doing a generic vote of this particular language then? We're not voting on the actual, am I correct?
right.
Okay.
Yep.
So I would make a motion that we vote to request the Board of Selectmen to open the warrant and add a school committee article for creating a school building committee and funding of $750,000 for a feasibility study for Foster, contingent upon being invited into the MSBA's core program. Should it be 2?
Yeah, we're gonna do 2 articles.
All right.
Because, I mean, it's gonna be phrased as 2, it's
Okay,
gonna be
so
in as 2
then
articles.
the first, I will amend my motion. It will be first, a motion to request the Board of Selectmen to open the warrant article and add a school committee article for creating a school building committee.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
And then I will make a motion to request the Board of Selectmen to open the warrant and add a school committee article with providing for funding of $750,000 for a feasibility study for Foster School contingent upon being invited into the MSBA's core program.
Cynthia, second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. very
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
Just make one last comment.
Sure.
Sorry, Ray has trustees again. One thing I forgot to mention, I think it's important that you not leave here unless you realize that obviously you just made a contingent vote, so and you would not, the intention is you would not be spending this $750,000 for feasibility until you get that invitation. However, you are going to do some, I think it would be prudent that you do some initial site investigation work to determine if the site is acceptable.
And we
Any
have
money
that
you
dollar.
Right, and that's capital dollars, however
Yeah.
you're, any money you spend would not necessarily be reimbursable by the MSBA because it predates the invitation.
Right.
However,
Yeah.
it is possible that it could be included and as the overall cost of feasibility and reimbursed if it is somehow helpful in determining site acceptability or things of that nature. So while you're doing it prior to invitation, and you shouldn't assume it will be reimbursable, in fact, you should assume it's not,
Yeah.
it is possible it could be included and reimbursable, at least at some rate.
So we should keep track of it very carefully.
I would, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Add that, you're gonna
I
have to
will.
have another notebook.
I'm gonna track it anyways, yeah, no, I'll be tracking it, believe me.
Okay. Great. So, so thank you everyone for also accommodating the quick turnaround and quick information on this. So I think we covered everything on the list on that topic, and we'll move on to tomorrow night. And then tomorrow night, we will have a quorum of 4 people. And then on Thursday night, the advisory committee will have their hearing on the topic as well. So if anyone can join us for that, and then the following week, there'll be the votes on Tuesday, the 7th. And we appreciate the advisory committee doing all the extra last minute work on this as well.
What time is the Thursday night meeting?
Linda, you vote on, you vote on what on this? You vote on what on this? The warrant?
Yes, the warrant article.
The meeting on 7:30 on Thursday night, where will that be? Someplace, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, 6.4, to receive notification of the overnight field trip of the high school student council to Hyannis for the Massachusetts Association of Student Councils, and it's not the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Conference.
Well, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
A joint meeting.
That's an annual request and annual event. I know my daughter has attended that. I believe Aileen's has attended it as well.
We're one of the largest student councils in the state and have been recognized for that.
That's great.
At this event.
And then 6.5, to receive notification of the overnight field trip of the high school AP Spanish students to New York City for Spanish cultural activities, March 8th and 9th. They have a variety of activities planned, plays, museums, etc. 6.6, to receive notification of the overnight field trip of the high school band, chorus, orchestra to Nashville, Tennessee on March 16th through 19th. This is an annual event. The music students go to a different major city every year. Is it New York every other year, and then?
No, they did
Different.
Chicago
Yeah.
last year.
So Nashville should be a great time. Then 6.7, to award the high school roof design bid. John, you're up again.
Yep. We, with the help of the Long-Range Planning Committee, we interviewed 3 of 5 designers that submit bids for the high school roof design work. And through the selection process, we came up with a winner of Habib Associates. we're very familiar with Habib. They did the design work for Plymouth River as well, and they were actually on board, and they provided the original estimate for the cost of design work at the high school, and they turned out very positive in the interview and other qualifications. So I'm requesting that we award the roof design work to Habib at a price of $28,000. Previously, the school committee had set a fee of up to $28,000. 24 of that is design, and $4,000 is to cover reimbursable expenses. And the insurance company is aware of that amount. They've included that amount in the settlement. I do believe that, by awarding this to Habib, that they will in fact get the job done and do it very efficiently for us, similar to the way they helped us out with Plymouth River. So I think they're a good vendor.
I make a motion to authorize John Ferris, our Director of Business and Support Services, to enter an agreement with Habib and Associates for the purpose of design work related to the roof repair at the high school. The work to include design of the roof repair, preparation of bid documents, bidding services, project management reviews during construction, and project closeout. Cost not to exceed $28,000.
Second?
I'll give you a copy of this.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, Aileen seconded it. 7, other items may not reasonably known in 48 hours. No? Good. Subcommittee and project reports?
Policy is meeting on Friday morning, or actually Friday midday. I believe we will be finalizing Section 6, which you've all had for quite a while now, so I would suspect we will have that on for a first reading at our next meeting. So, not too late to still get us comments if anybody has them.
I did send you all today
Yes.
information from Glenn.
Yes.
We'd asked questions and helpful information.
Yeah, I think we're on the final stages of the
MOU as well.
so hopefully we can have that for the next meeting.
Community outreach is meeting 7th, correct?
That's correct. At
At
11:15,
11:15.
Salary negotiation is meeting next Monday. And also I want to mention that Hingham Education Foundation is having their fundraiser on March 31st at Black Rock, and it's called prom. So if you want to dress up like you and pull out your old prom gear and go to Black Rock.
I never went to a prom.
Well, this could be
my
your
pink
chance.
I never went to one.
But I think you have to wear something a little tacky. I don't know. So anyway, if you want to buy tickets, you can get them on their website, hinghameducationfoundation.org.
Long-range planning will be meeting this Wednesday evening at 7. We're going to discuss some softball and baseball adaptations of the ball field at the new middle school. We'll be reviewing the capital outlay contribution, and what am I forgetting?
Well, we're going to discuss the
I
tennis
tried to find the
courts.
agenda and I couldn't get there fast enough.
Discuss the tennis courts at the high school, but
Tennis
I
courts,
think
okay.
that item may be postponed or eliminated, so we'll see.
It's a posted meeting for those of you who are interested. Where the Sam Hill is that?
Number 9.
Wow.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Wow.
Less than 2 hours.
9:29.
1 hour and 58 minutes.
Yeah, look at that.